Hello everybody, welcome to our special program, Global Lens, Insights from the CIIE 2023 Opening Day. I am your host, Niu Honglin. Today we're live on the Bund of Shanghai, and behind us, through this beautiful window, you get to see this splendid view of the skyline of the city. And hopefully, we can serve as your window to global trade on this very opening day of the expo. Joining me today, I have Dou Hongyu, CGTN reporter for CIIE, and Joseph Gregory Mahoney, professor of politics and international relations with East China Normal University in Shanghai. Welcome to the show.
Welcome to Shanghai.
Great to have both of you here. And if you'd like to catch us, you can find us on all of the CGTN platforms, including our official website, international social media platforms such as Facebook, X Space, and also all other major platforms, as well as domestic social media platforms, including Sina Weibo and also WeChat video channel. Now, grab your virtual compass and follow us to the heart of the discussion. Right, I'd like to direct my first question to Hongyu because you are the reporter for CIIE and you have been there for the very first day, super excited, and I'm very jealous. So how do you feel for the very first day?
Well, I have to say that this is a massive trade event. I mean, when you walk into that venue, well, I personally speaking, I was kind of overwhelmed by the size of the venue. It is held in Shanghai in the National Convention Center, and it is in a grandeur building in the shape of a clover. And there are two layers, and I think there are over 10 venues there. So no matter which venue you walk into, you will see lights, spotlights, and huge booths, specially decorated by those companies. And people there are super excited, especially on the first day, I think. I think what stood out for you, especially on the first day, is that they are debuting their products. And many of those products are put in front of Chinese customers around the world for the very first time. I think this is because, well, this is an important event, so they can use this event to increase the popularity and the visibility of their new products so that they can be popular on the Chinese market. And also, you know, it's close to the Double 11 festival. It's a Chinese shopping festival. So they want to have a good sale for their debut products. So many of them are showing their products for the very first time. And the exhibitors didn't tell me about this, but I could also smell a sense of competition. This is not just about cooperation, because the exhibitors, the companies that are offering similar services or products are showing their products at the same space. So if your company is showing your very creative new product and I am not, then it'll not be good for me.
And right next to you, the other booth, the really great booth, is, wow, I can totally understand the sense of competition, but for consumers, we like that.
Yeah, and in that sense, that's also a good opportunity for learning, not just for cooperation, not just a little bit competition, but also a learning platform.
Yes, yeah. But I also know that you were here the previous year where it was not exactly or completely offline. So do you feel the distinguish between the previous one and this one? Anything stood out from that side?
Well, exactly, because last year was under COVID restrictions. And that is one of the most obvious changes, both for exhibitors and for media workers, and also for the organizing committee, I think. So I think that a lot of exhibitors this year are trying to dig out their potential from this exhibition. And I can feel that many of the companies are cherishing this year's expo because of the removal of restrictions. Last year, when I was trying to reach out to some CEOs of transnational competitions, they told me that, well, our CEOs were back in their country because they couldn't come because of the COVID restrictions. But this year, they're not only their CEOs are coming, but also their partners and other staff members. So we're seeing lots of foreign faces this year.
That is great. How about you, Mr. Mahoney, or Professor Mahoney? Though you were not there, but you have, as I remember, quite a lot of attention put on CIIE. And what's your overall impression?
You know, my impression, firstly, is that, as she was saying, people are excited to be here, right? they're excited to introduce their products. They're excited to take this opportunity to try to better enter or better expand their presence in the Chinese market. But not just that, Shanghai is a great city to visit, and a lot of people stayed away for a few years because of COVID, and they've been slow to come back, or maybe they were waiting to come back with the expo. This is a global city. It's one of the great cities of the world. I've lived here for 13 years. I love living here. It's my favorite place to be. So I can sense that excitement that they would have about being here. But my impression of the expo this year is that this is really a breakthrough year, not just because we've gotten past the COVID restrictions, but because there has been, I think, this latent potential to really figure out how to do this, to bring a new level of professionalism and support. I mean, everything just seems to be, not just because it's offline, but there's a whole new level of sophistication, organization, and management that we're seeing this year that I think is demonstrating this higher level potential. But not only that this meeting now, in its 6th year, has figured out what it is, and it's established itself. It's learned how to position itself, to promote itself in around the world, and to draw, as we've seen, so many new participants who want to come and take advantage of it. And I think we've seen this with the Prime Minister of Australia coming to support it, with this larger than ever contingent of U.S. businesses who are coming, and certainly a lot of countries that have never been represented, especially from the global south, who are coming in. So I think this is a breakthrough year for a lot of different reasons, and it's an exciting time for the participants, but also Shanghai.
Yes, totally. And we know that this year, in terms of only scale, actually is 30% larger. So it's really, I would like to put it, mind-blowing, earth-shattering, and record-breaking. I love to see such an expo, and I think it's the same thing for a lot of people. They're making friends, they're trying to find out buyers, they're also trying to find out people from the upper, let's say, industrial chain, so that they can make business. So totally a very important expo happening here in Shanghai. And like you have said, this year we've seen a lot of newcomers, and also some old friends are, let's say, leveling up their game as well. Namely, maybe, like you said, the United States as well as Australia, which is why it's been given special attention from the Shanghai municipal government as well as other, let's say, higher level of governments. Actually, as a matter of fact, Chinese President Xi Jinping has sent a letter congratulated the event, the opening day, and also Chinese Premier Li has also been here personally and delivered a speech. I'm pretty sure you have all listened to that speech. So do you have any important takeaways from the speech this morning?
Well, I think the thing that was most striking about the speech is that he reiterated a lot of talking points that we have heard consistently from China. And this is sort of this very consistent message of, we're open for business, we support global trade, we want to move forward not only with expanding international access to Chinese market, but also promoting trade between all countries. And I think sometimes we're looking for a new message, but I think that the message that we're getting from Beijing is a message of consistency. This is what we support. You can count on us. And I think that the key point here is that it really runs in contrast to some of the messaging that we're getting from other players in the global market. For example, the message that came out of the G7 earlier this year in Tokyo, where they were talking about de-risking, right? Or we see other efforts to sort of intervene and slow down trade and to restrict cross-border finance. You don't see that coming from the Chinese side. China says, we're open for business, let's do business, it's great, it's good for all of us. So, and not only that, that's the purpose of this expo, is to support these efforts. So the messaging is consistent. I think the other thing, though, that's really important is that Premier Li came to the meeting to personally address. And this is significant for two reasons. The first is, when this meeting was first started, he was the head of Shanghai. Yes. And he, Shanghai plays a very instrumental role, not only in hosting, but as I said earlier, as China's global city, where so much of the trade and finance flows through. So he has always been part of this meeting. Of course, it was introduced and proposed originally by President Xi, but his local partner was Li Qiang. And now that Li Qiang has risen to the level of premier, he's coming back. He's invested in this at the local level, but also at the national level. So I think it's a really good sign of this sort of deep commitment institutionally, politically to this meeting. That is good news for everyone who participates.
Totally, and like you said, the message is totally consistent. Actually, we've seen the keyword of high-level openness for at least this is the 6th consecutive year, and that is what we want. And Chinese President Xi Jinping once said that the Chinese economy is a vast ocean, not a small pond. We want the global, let's say, any possible participants to come here to share the benefit and to make their business as well as our business better. And I think that is really a very important message. And do you have anything to add?
Yeah, in the morning in Premier Li's speech, he mentioned 4 measures to further improve the high quality opening up of Chinese market. One of the focuses is on market opportunities, and another one is about innovation and also global market, global cooperation, and also rules and regulations. And from the expo, we can see that this expo is actually part of the implementation of such measures. It opens the door for companies, both from China and from the rest of the world, to know about each other, and especially for foreign companies to know about the Chinese market. And in his speech, Premier Li shared some stories in the past CIIEs. One of them is about an American company taking part in the CIIE for the first time in 2018. Back then, they were not sure what is this expo and what can we get. But after the expo, the first edition actually, they got orders of about 300 million RMB, and they were surprised by that. And that's the reason why they come back year after year. Actually, that's only one single story, but that happens each year at the CIIE. A lot of companies have experienced that. That's why we can see a lot of old faces, old friends here at the CIIE. And their confidence not just comes from the massive Chinese market, but also from the rules and regulations. We have laws that can protect those companies, and those companies can play by the laws. So I think it is this kind of the sense of safety and the lack of uncertainty that give those companies, foreign companies, confidence about Chinese market.
Yeah, I think the example you have just mentioned is a really good example. It happens to a lot of different companies, and the United States has actually always been an active partner or active participant to the CIIE, regardless of what some individual politicians are saying. It has been very active, and for this year, they're definitely taking it up another level. They have it's the first time that they have been participating from a federal level, and apparently they've been, let's say, building this agricultural pavilion with 17 different participants, and it is actually really fun. Even though I don't have the opportunity to go see it for my very eye, I would love to see what they are bringing, not only agricultural products, but also technologies, and I would say a great interest to the Chinese market. But from a, let's say, larger point of view or larger perspective, a bigger picture, Mr. Mahoney, do you think it has significance larger than just trade between the two countries?
This is a very complicated question. On the one hand, I remain a little pessimistic about what Washington wants vis-a-vis China. I've spoken in other interviews and other media that my concern from what we've seen, what the U.S. has been doing with small block building and trying to enact what Beijing itself describes as containment and suppression policy, tech decoupling and so forth and so on, that as Kissinger said when he visited recently, that we're on the cusp of a new Cold War. And that's a very dark chapter of history. And I think we all hope that that's not what's coming down the line. We hope that when President Xi and President Biden meet on the sidelines of APEC this month, that they'll be able to make some sort of progress in the relationship. My position is I'll believe it when I see it. But I think the key point is, you know, we've seen senior business leaders coming from the United States, coming to visit China this year. We've seen other key figures like California Governor Gavin Newsom. We've seen this tremendous presence of American businesses at the expo this year. I think the message that is being sent to Washington by the American commercial sector or business sectors, we want to do business, right? We want to sell our products. We want to be able to buy Chinese products. We want trade. We don't want a trade war. We don't want trade restrictions. We don't want financial restrictions. You know, why is it that Washington is talking about financial investment restrictions? It's because there are American investors who want to invest in China, right? So I think that what we're seeing is you know, this real commercial interest that is trying to send a strong message to China that they want to do business, but also a strong message to Washington that this is in America's interest as well to do business with China and not to continue to take relations down this dark path.
I think, well, maybe I am just being too optimistic, but I feel like the signals are relatively consistent, and like you said, not only sending to Beijing but also to Washington, and I think reasonable people would listen to that, would advise in, and I am being optimistic about Expo and also APEC.
Yeah, a lot of people are being optimistic. The one problem, of course, is that we're you know, approaching an election. And U.S. politicians tend to become a little more, let's say, silly or radical or pandering to the lowest common denominator during these contests. Let's hope that that won't be the case in the coming year. But there's another view. So it's not just a view that things are going to get better or going to get worse, but that maybe we have already reached a new normal. And so now that we have this new normal, we can begin to improve it in some constructive way. So maybe we're not going to go back in time to something better as before, but maybe we're now at a position where, okay, the U.S. feels like it's got enough strategic assets in place that it doesn't feel threatened by China's rise, whatever that means. But at the same time, now we can be more constructive in the positive aspects of our relationship. Maybe that's the third option, and maybe that's the path that will open up. I suspect it is the path that will open up, because I think ultimately you have to do business with China. You have to move forward with China. Otherwise, you don't move forward.
And also, it's apparently the United States market is important to China because it's the 2 largest economy in the world, and we want to do business for sure. But China is also focusing on a lot of other countries as well, especially the global south. This year, we know that we have the guest of honor countries that are participating in this year's CIIE, and we have Honduras, Kazakhstan, Serbia, South Africa, and Vietnam being the guest countries of honor. And China is also opening up to some less developed countries. Actually, they can come here and attend CIIE for free, because we want, again, the Chinese economy and Chinese market to be open up to the entire world. We can share the results. We can be benefited together from the development of the Chinese market, and hopefully we can develop together. And I think that is quite a positive sign. And what are some let's say, countries that you have interviewed, perhaps for this year's CIIE, Hongyu?
Well, there are over 1,400 companies from Belt and Road partner countries at this year's CIIE, and I've already talked to one of them. It's a Zambian company selling honey and products made of honey. They also have a very cute story. At the very beginning, they also didn't have any idea about this expo. One day they were collecting honey in the forest when they received a message from the Chinese embassy about this expo, and they were asked, would you like to come to this expo in Shanghai? They had no idea what that was and what they would get, but they still brought a few boxes of honey to this expo. But to their surprise, their honey was so popular in the first edition of the expo because Chinese customers are curious. How is the honey from Zambia tastes different from that of other places like New Zealand and also from China? So a lot of people were lining up there at their booth tasting their honey. And after that exhibition, they signed deals with 2 Chinese companies that were willing to help them to sell their honey and honey products. And they also got invitation to online e-commerce platforms. A few e-commerce agencies came to them and said, would you like to let us help you to do business online? And they got to choose one of those agencies. Ooh. So you see, they were a very small company from Zambia, nobody knew them. But after the first edition of CIIE, they got to choose which partner they would work with. So now they're selling products online. And also, over the past few years, they've been here at the CIIE each year, and they are also expanding their businesses both in China and in Europe. So their products was also known by companies and customers from other countries as well. And they were also helping other companies from other African countries like Ghana and South Africa to help them to build up their own brands, not just honey products, but also like soda and other products. And this year, they've also brought their new friends here from Ghana and from South Africa. So you see, they're also helping other African countries, companies from other African countries, to pave their own way to the Chinese market. And by the way, the Belt and Road Initiative has also helped them to come to this expo because Chinese companies have already built ports and airports and railways and also logistics centers in Zambia. So their products this year are also transported through those routes. In the past, if they wanted to transport their products to China, they have to wait for 3 months. But now only 40 days through the sea route. And the manager told me that that was the maximum capacity of sea transportation. So I think the Belt and Road Initiative has helped them to enter the Chinese market, which is a quite lucrative market for any businesses in Africa. And also this exhibition is further opening the door of Chinese market and also international markets for those companies of BRI partner countries.
I think that is a very lovely story, and I'd love to buy some of the honey from online. I think I can do that now. Mm-hmm. And the thing is, the expo is never only about the big name companies, the Fortune 500 companies. It's also about SMEs. It's also about bringing the name that no one has ever heard of before out to the market for consumers to know about, to fall in love with. And you mentioned BRI. This year marks the 10th anniversary of the Belt and Road Initiative, and actually we also have a specific CIIE themed railway, well, not railway, but train from Europe to China, full of the goods that will be and is actually exporting, or let's say exhibiting on CIIE this year. And it has been a great, I would say, celebration in the world of trade. But as for the Global South, I'm pretty sure both Global South and BRI has been amazing and interesting concept for you, especially from the point of view of international relations and international cooperation.
I remember 10 years ago when BRI was first proposed by President Xi, and there were a lot of people who thought this was a fanciful dream. And even a lot of Chinese people were like, I don't know why we want to help other people develop. Don't we need to just help ourselves? And but I think what it has demonstrated is incredible strategic vision, and it's had some challenges, but it's also grown and adapted and already achieved tremendous outcomes and success, and it's still growing to this day. And increasingly, we're seeing more and more breakthroughs in terms of major projects starting to produce the desired outcomes. Now, I think, you know, if we talk about this, as you were talking about it in terms of connectivity, but also, as you were saying, the global South, right? It's important for China, as a matter of principle, but also as a matter of good economic sense, to grow with the global South, right? And there are opportunities to grow and develop in these win-win paradigms. So we can go in and from the Chinese perspective, we can go in and we can help build your infrastructure. Other firms can come in and help, you know, firms like Huawei or Alibaba or whoever can come in and help build digital infrastructure. And then not only do you have the connectivity of the roads, the ports, the railways, but you also have you know, these low-cost, solar-powered digital stations that are allowing these developing and emerging markets to participate in what we call the fourth industrial revolution. So now you have this Zambian honey company that can get its product to the market, but they can also be doing their online business through these other forms of connectivity that have followed BRI. Now, that sort of value added, right? And it was one of the things that we see with BRI, but also CIIE, is that it's not just about resources, it's not just about energy or other types of things, but new products, value-added products that are growing the economies of both these countries like Zambia or Honduras or others, as well as satisfying, as you said, the Chinese curiosity, the taste bud. What does honey from Zambia taste like, right? And if it's good, they'll keep buying it, of course. So I think all of these things are exciting. But they're particularly exciting because, you know, China is part of the global South, and it's the first major country of the global South to break through these old, let's say, post-colonial or neo-colonial or hegemonic or neo-hegemonic or neo-imperial, whatever term you want, paradigms that had restricted the growth and development of a large part of the world, of the global South in particular. And China found solutions. They were able to develop and find their own path forward. And now they are realizing, well, in order for us to continue to grow, but also, you know, because it's the right thing to do, if we can work with these other countries, if we can build, but then also improve their economy, this adds value to BRI, right? So all of these things become synergistic and leads ideally to the increases in growth that we've seen. And of course, we've already seen tremendous growth in Southeast Asia. This is one of the reasons why I think Vietnam has been featured so significantly, and not just in this meeting, in other meetings, where the BRI projects have really matured. It's where they went in first, but where they've really matured is in Southeast Asia. And we expect that success now to extend over to the Middle East, to Africa, and then onward to Latin America. It's a very exciting development, and the projections for improvements to global trade coming out of the UN and other international agencies are very, very promising at this point.
Yeah, and I think one thing very beautiful about BRI is that it would fit into the situation of that country that we're trying to help or cooperate with. We do not make a plan for every country to just follow. It's like we ask what you want and we try to cooperate in the way that you want and I also want. That is what we call a win-win cooperation. And while we're doing the live stream, actually a lot of netizens are sending in messages. They're actually saying things, very interesting things. We have Giovanni Luca saying, there's really special honey from Nepal. You gotta hit on it. And because bees feed on a special flower. See, I am being recommended with multiple choices of honey. That's the beauty of a import expo. You can face different kind of products and you can make a choice as a consumer. And we also have many of our friends saying hello from multiple platforms. So if you're watching right now and if anything you want to say, just sending messages through any platform you're on, no matter if it's our official website or Facebook or XPlace or WeChat, let's say WeChat video channel or Weibo. See, that's the thing. When you have multiple choices, you can make the things better, and that's the beauty of an expo. And when it is an expo, or let's say it will have a certain theme, and for the Import Expo, its theme is import, and actually it's the biggest and the first expo focusing on import. Yet there are still some voice of criticism. Some people would suggest that it's merely an expo for that 5 days, and you come in, you bring your product, you feel like you've been signing deals, but it's just not enough. It's not more than, even someone would suggest it's not more than a political gesture. And how do you feel about that?
Well, we heard this kind of criticism, I think, from the European Chamber of Commerce in China. And I found the criticism a little amusing because they said, for example, that half the deals that they had signed in the past had not been executed. And I tried to find some independent sourcing on that data, and I couldn't find it. But then I also wondered, well, what's a good standard? Like how many, because sometimes people are experiencing a euphoria at an expo. I tried to see if there was any data related to the World Expo, the next one, which will take place in Osaka. Is there any data that says what's a good standard? But I couldn't find anything, so I don't know. But what I can say is a couple of points on this. First, I was looking at social media this morning. My mother is Danish, and so I follow the Danish embassy in China, and they were really excited about coming to CIIE. They were really talking up. They were excited to come to Shanghai, get out of Beijing, but also they were excited to introduce their products to the expo. At the same time, I talked to, because this is a global city, there are so many businesses here, and I know that we've had some difficult times because of COVID, but even before COVID, I was hearing from some sources that some European companies were struggling to compete. And they were struggling to compete for a couple of reasons. One was maybe their product lines were starting to lag a little bit. For example, in Chinese automobile manufacturing, they've really surged ahead. China's a leader now in EVs. And if you're in the EV business and you're coming out of Europe, and there are European firms that are players here, they're finding it hard to compete with Chinese firms. But there's another side of it, which is one of the things that I hear is that a lot of European firms in particular, are struggling to market their products. That the marketing, the sophistication of marketing in China now has become so developed, cross-platform marketing, bringing in suppliers, how do you market to all these different players and then link this to your e-commerce model, that the Europeans are really behind the curve on this, right? So this is, we go back to sort of the old Ricardo law of comparative advantages. You need to bring good products, right? So Nepal, someone says, okay, we've got this great honey from Nepal, bring it, right? I mean, if it's a good honey and it's better than the Zambian honey, I mean, the Chinese will try both because, as you said, they want to try, they're curious. But whichever one is the best or whichever one suits this person, that's the honey they're going to buy. And it's the same thing with whatever product's coming out of Europe. You got to get that product here, but you also have to really up your game in terms of getting your product out to Chinese consumers, promoting it, and bringing your business model together in a very sophisticated digital way. And until that really happens, I think European firms are going to be frustrated. So I hear this criticism, but I don't really know how to value the criticism given this broader context.
Well, actually, I agree with this professor. And I think we can see a lot of signs of developments from the CIIE. Especially as a reporter, I was particularly interested in or focusing on the developments of products, because from the evolution of products each year and the CIIE, we can see the changes or the upgrade of Chinese customers' habits and the upgrade of Chinese market. For example, there was a beauty company that once displayed their 3D print, their facial treatment mask printed by a machine. In the very first year, people were very curious because we haven't seen any facial masks that could be printed by machines, and they were helpful, they were good for your skin. So there were a lot of people surrounding that robotic arm, seeing how exactly that was printed, and it was tailored for one single visitor. And at that time, the beauty company found out that Chinese customers are really into this, and there's a huge potential here. So the following year, they brought an improved version of that machine. And that machine can print a facial mask that can help to improve a specific area on your face. For example, if the skin around your eyes are drier, then maybe the treatment mask will help you to add more water into that area. So that is an example. And also, sometimes it is not just about the evolution of products, but there are also concepts or ideas being displayed at the expo. Once I interviewed a medical company, a few years ago, they displayed a concept or model of a kind of pail. And then during that expo, a few other companies got interested in their idea and their concept. So they got connection with each other. And during the following year, they built up cooperation and they worked together to do research and to develop such a kind of pail. So just 1 year later, that concept was turned into a real bottle of pills. So when the worker at the booth handed me the bottle of pills, and when I was holding it, I felt like I was holding a baby that was born at the CIIE. Actually, this expo has been witnessing such similar stories, such birth of new baby products each year. I think from this evolution of products, or the evolution from an idea to a real product, and even a popular product on the Chinese market, we can see the changes of Chinese customers and also the power of this expo.
I'd like to add something to that. You know, China has more than 400 million middle-income earners at this point. That's, you know, the U.S. population, total population is somewhere around 300 million. So more than the U.S. population, like a third more, is a middle-income earner. And I think the thing that people around the world don't yet really comprehend, I mean, they understand numbers. They understand, okay, that's a big number. But they don't understand is how sophisticated that market has become, right? And sophisticated in a variety of ways. So, for example, they're very much interested in beauty products that are cutting edge, right? And they spend lots of money on these things. I know my daughter spends lots of my money on these things, but very much interested in these types of products, personal care products, well-being products, right? They're up on what's happening in the world, the latest style, the latest fashion, latest trend. Very, very conscientious about health, food, green food, organic food, right? The latest in technology, right? So these are the things that you know, you really have to bring your A game, because Chinese consumers, yes, they might be interested in honey, and that honey might be great, but they want to be at the cutting edge. They demand to be at the cutting edge. It's part of their sense of being one of the more advanced economies. Their sense of dignity is we can afford the very best. We want the very best products, and you know, I think the other thing is, you know, certainly Beijing has promoted this expo for a number of reasons, but one of the reasons that they have supported it and promoted it is because they know that Chinese consumers want access to these products and these commodities, right? It's not just, okay, we're going to play this development game. It's people want, right? They want access to the very best things in the world. And this is an opportunity for them to get it. It's just those best things need to come and present themselves.
Totally, and actually we talk about beauty product. I read news about this new, let's say, special machine that can help you put on makeup automatically. You don't have to do it by yourself. A machine hand will help you do that. And also there is another machine designed the shape of your eyebrows based on your facial, let's say, features. And I was superficial. I thought, wow, that's convenient. I would get one of those. And until I realized it's for people with disabilities. It's very considerate, and it's how sophisticated the consumers are right now here in China. I think that is a very lovely idea. And same high technology are going to the sector of elder care, of people with special needs in medical care areas. So yes, like both of you have mentioned, this is a grand expo not only for businesses that are coming to China seeking opportunities in the Chinese market, but also for Chinese consumers. We want a higher level of quality in life, and we are getting that through different one after another events like this.
You know, you kind of worried me there for a moment.
What?
I thought,
Makeup?
oh, there's this new machine, and this is what my daughter's going to want for Christmas.
Oh, your daughter might want the
and then
eyebrow thing.
And then you said it's for disabled people, so and
Or
that's
very
wonderful.
lazy people like myself.
Very lazy people. Well, I'm not going to say she's very lazy.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the thing.
But she does like makeup.
Yeah, well, it's not a matter of like or dislike. Sometimes we just need it.
She loves
yes,
it.
You will understand later.
I will never understand. It's too late for me already.
Aw. And the thing is, when it comes to the kind of statement saying that, well, what can you do for just 5 days? I have to tell you, the Import Expo is not just a 5-day event. It's more like a 5-day plus 365-day thing, because a lot of deals are signed, and after the signing of the deal, you have to deliver the results. And we do have different platforms and different organizations helping to achieve what the deals are signing at. And for example, we have the Hongqiao Import Commodity Exhibition and Trading Center, also some people call it Hongqiao Pinghui. It is committed to becoming a centralized showcase for CIIE achievements, a hub for imported goods, and a gathering place for international trade enterprises. And actually, for the past 5 editions of CIIE, the transaction volume exceeding 350 billion, which is not a small number. That is a very impressive number. And as for examples, you have already both mentioned about a business making its name and letting people know. Yes, that's the beautiful, lovely story I love about SMEs. But I have to say, actually, big name companies are benefiting from the expo as well. I know a fast fashion brand, the Uniqlo, they have been participating in CIIE for the 4th consecutive year, and they even have special debut just for CIIE. And their special debut for CIIE, actually the sales of several of the products doubled just after CIIE. So actual results are happening, and as a business, if you really use CIIE as a, let's say, place for advertisement, it actually happens, well, good results actually come out of it. And that made me wonder, have you ever, let's say, well, I guess technically speaking, you've already given so many examples of small and medium-sized enterprises coming to China and having a successful story, but do you have some other fun stories to share with us?
Well, also micro and media companies?
Yes.
Well, actually, last year I was paying too much attention on those big companies. So this year I was kind of shifting my focus to those smaller names, and even those still not quite known by people. I talked to an exhibitor from Bangladesh. Actually, that was the only Bangladeshi company coming to the CIIE, but they have been here for at least 4 years. Maybe this is the 5th year or the 6th year. The founder was just a student in Shanghai, a college student. He was doing his PhD, and he decided to let Chinese people know more about the cultures and products from his hometown. So he started his own business selling Bangladeshi jute products. Jute is a kind of fiber made from a kind of tropical plant. We are not that familiar with tropical plants here, especially Niu Niu and I are working in Beijing, so we are not familiar with such kind of fiber or what kind of products it can make, and is it eco-friendly, and what can we do with them, and are they beautiful? After they came to this first CIIE, they found that Chinese customers were so into those kind of naturally made handicrafts, like baskets or bags or carpets. So they kept coming year after year. Now, he's still a student, but he's already built his own family here and had his very cute daughter. And also, what's the most important is that their business in China is now feeding over 2,000 women back in his hometown in Bangladesh, in a remote rural area there. And they told me that before they got this job, they were just housewomen. And many of their children couldn't get education because they didn't have money. But after that, they got a lot of money and their children can go to school. And those women in those rural areas can be more independent. So we can see that this exhibition has helped this company to reach back into his own home. And I think another important point is that this exhibition is lowering the threshold for such small businesses from the least developed areas in the world to get into the Chinese market. You know, the exhibition is not for free. If you want to come and attend, you need to pay a certain amount of money for a larger booth or a small booth. But for countries from the least developed areas in the world, they can get a free booth. So the Bangladeshi company got a free booth, which makes it so easy for them to show their products to the Chinese customers. So I think it is quite important for us to give them an opportunity to lower the threshold for them to enter the Chinese market. We know that those big names have their own pieces of cake from the Chinese market, but I think those small companies from less developed areas also deserve a bite.
That's totally very well said. And not only that, actually, the Expo provide SME with these kind of matchmaking conferences. And one of my friends working in the Bank of China actually is a worker in this regard. She is actually an interpreter, and she trained, I think, more than hundreds of interpreters to help these SMEs to talk to each other, to see whether or not their business match with each other, so that they can make connections and can learn from each other, and they help them sign deals. And if you have problem with cash flow, you can also have a loan specially designed for SMEs from the Bank of China and some other banks around China, and that would make real changes, like Hongyu has mentioned. That is not only from the financial side, but also it changes people's lives and sometimes changes even their future, and that is very beautiful. And when it comes to SMEs, Hongyu has also mentioned that culture is a very interesting part of the game, because we've seen some people bringing not only their product but also their culture or their ritual to the expo for the world to see. Actually, I think Honduras, being one of the guest of honor countries for this year's CIIE, they wanted more tourists in their country, so they have been coming here and talking about their tourist attractions and destinations. And I believe for the coming 4 days, it will be a great hit. And that is not the only form of cultural exchange on CIIE. Of course, we see beautiful exhibitions, we see auctions, we also see a lot of different interactive kind of activities you can attend. Hongyu, you are going to, have it for a treat.
There are dancings.
Yes, and also I think there are concerts. I know there is something called a high tea concert featuring not only traditional Chinese music, but also different types of music from all around the world. There is even an electronic type of music that is supposed to be healing and giving you therapeutic effect. You can try it. Go definitely try it and let me know how it feels.
Yeah, I will.
Yeah, and that is very interesting. So how do you think, or what do you take on the importance of cultural exchange, not only in CIIE, but also in a larger, let's say, level? Because we always say China would love for the world, for different civilizations to talk to each other, to learn from each other, and to appreciate each other.
Well, this is also a very big topic. I'd like to just add one point to the earlier question, and then I'll get into
Sure.
the culture question. You mentioned Uniqlo, and Uniqlo is a really good case study of a international firm that has come into China and been very successful. And what is unique about Uniqlo among the fast fashion competitors is that they are known to produce higher quality products. Right? So I don't want to name other companies in a negative sense, but some of them have closed their operations in China in the last couple of years, and even globally. But if you go to like online sources, GQ, whatever, what are the best producers of T-shirts, right? Like the Uniqlo T-shirt for men always shows up as like one of the like standbys, like because if you're a guy and you don't really know anything, where do you buy a good shirt, right? So I got 2 kids. I buy a lot of clothes from Uniqlo. Why? Well, because they make good quality clothes, and they've got an outlet 400 meters from me, and then another one 600 meters from me. So coming and going, whichever way we're getting home, we go past a Uniqlo. But when I was in Europe this summer, there was only one that I recall. I did a search, and it was in Milan, and near the Duomo, near the high fashion part of the city. But what was also interesting is that when I went walking around the Duomo in Milan, I also saw a lot of Chinese brands that were then competing. It raises the question: why isn't Uniqlo, which makes a good product, why aren't they have deeper penetration of the American market? Why don't they have deeper penetration of the European market? And I don't know the answer to that question, but I do know that they're doing very well here because they provide a product that people like and want. And maybe it's also because they're being supported by continuing or developing their relationship through initiatives like the Expo. Now, to talk about culture, what we've heard from President Xi and other senior leaders is the importance of people-to-people exchanges, right? And people-to-people exchanges can take place in a myriad of forms. It can be, tourism, it can be scholars or people, it can be officials visiting, or it can be all of these pavilions coming in order to demonstrate their products. But these products are oftentimes, if you talk about the jute product or the honey product or the organic food coming out of Denmark, Denmark and China, actually they have a lot in common now. Denmark, which has this population, the whole population, which is just a fragment of Shanghai's population, but the Danish are very green oriented now. And Chinese people have become incredibly green oriented in the last 10 to 15 years, right? Food security, clean air, clean water, all of these things. These are core values of middle income earners in China. And these are core values in Denmark, and so they can produce art, marvelous. But that's a cultural connection. There are profound cultural differences, but there are also cultural connections. And the extent to which people can become more aware of what they have in common, right? And how these aspects, we don't have to obliterate differences. We don't have to talk about some false notion of universalism, but we are all human and we all have things in common, and we can emphasize those things and use those things in common. There's a specific phrase in Beijing, I can't remember, but focus on what we have in common. 求同存异. Yeah, and we will resolve our differences as we move forward in a positive way. My university, East China Normal University, had its global fair. And all the countries of, and by the way, just a little promo for my university. My university is number 4 in China for international programs, but number 1 in Shanghai.
Impressive.
And so we have a tremendous number of international students. And so they had this massive fair yesterday. All these different students manning their country's booths. My daughter, although she grew up in China, she's half Chinese, she was in charge of the American booth, right? And so another student who's from Hungary was promoting Hungarian food and culture, and there were guys from Pakistan who were demonstrating dances. But one of the things that I saw was that some of my friends who were in China's business, or Shanghai's business community, they came to the expo, right? I mean, they were interested in that connection. They were looking to make connections. They were looking possibly for people that they might want to hire, people from different countries, because they have different commercial interests in different countries. So all of these things are part of the same spirit that we see that's being promoted through the people-to-people exchanges that are taking place through the expo itself.
Yes, that is very well said. And our netizens watching from all of our different platforms are sending in messages. They tell us what they're watching. Some of them are from the United States. Some of them are in Xuzhou. Some of them from watching in Beijing. And they really like the phrase 求同存异 apparently. And we also have people saying that Africa has really good coffee. Hopefully, people in the expo would be able to enjoy coffee products from Africa, and that is lovely. I agree. And for those of you who are watching, this is a special program coming to an end, and it focuses on the key takeaways, on the insights of the opening day of China Import Expo, the International Import Expo. And this is our roundtable discussion. At the end, I feel like I am left with awe and inspiration, and hopefully you the same. And through the window, you get to see the splendid view of Shanghai, and hopefully using our program as a window, you would have a sneak peek of the splendid world of trade. This is Niu Honglin, and today I am with Professor Joseph Mahoney from Professor Mahoney from the University of East China